The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Today in Sports. Yes, I know, once again, I am not the great Devin Ellington. However, I'm back for another episode, and I'm joined by a special guest this time, the one and only. And no, I've been practicing this, and I still might get this wrong. One of my coworkers here over at hoop-ball.com, Eric Arzoumanian.
Arzoumanians. You butchered it this time even worse than you did before the show.
See, every time I hit play when the lights are on, I guess I kind of tend to fade. You know what I mean? Just when it comes to like something brand new, I'm one of those people that need practice.
No, I think everybody's like that, no?
Yeah, I mean, except for Allen Iverson. Practice? We talking about practice? Eric, what's going on, man? I heard that we talked about this off air, and for those who don't know, because I mean they've never heard you before, because this is your very first time ever on a podcast. I'm glad it's with me.
I wasn't going to say it. I was going to act like I was a seasoned vet, but now that you said it, yeah, it's my first podcast.
Nah, we're gonna open up the curtain and let them take a peek behind there. You know what I mean? Eric, first time on a podcast, great hoop baller over here, and you and I have got a big show planned for today. You know, a lot of the times when we come on here, guys, we're talking about college basketball, college football, and Devin's great with that type of stuff, as well as with the NFL lines, and when basketball tips off here, we're going to be talking a lot about that. But Eric, you and I have something very big in common, and that is that we love fights, and specifically in the UFC. And tonight, we are going to be breaking down UFC 256, the final pay-per-view fight of the year. And, man, I think we got a lot of fights to cover.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite cards of the year, both as like a spectator and from a betting perspective, too. I see a lot of lines that I like.
Yeah, for sure. It sucks that it got kind of broken down. You know, like there was a lot of talk between having Kamaru Usman fighting on this card. There were also rumblings of having maybe a Conor McGregor here, and I think they pushed him to the March or February of next year, which I'm excited about. There was just so many names that popped up here, and I was actually really worried about this card. So I'm actually pretty happy with the names that they have put for us here at UFC 256. And you know, let's go ahead and start it off with our very first fight that we're going to cover here, and that's Peter Barrett going up against, I think, a fan favorite here, and a person that a lot of people want to see win, which is Chase Hooper. What are your thoughts on this fight?
So, I mean, as far as this fight, obviously the guy everybody's looking at and the guy everybody knows is Chase Hooper. He's, in my opinion, he's a little one-dimensional. His jiu-jitsu is great, but the one thing that he kind of got exposed on last fight against Alex Caceres was his striking. It's not the best, but from what I see, I don't think Peter Barrett's going to have what it takes to, you know, expose those weaknesses, because Chase Hooper, as good as he is on the ground, if you can keep him from getting there, you can kind of expose that. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think Chase Hooper should be the favorite. As of right now, mybookie.ag, the sponsor of this show here, has him as a minus 340, and that's understandable. I mean, Hooper, I feel not only does he have the experience, I feel like he's just more explosive on the ground as well. Like you said, his jiu-jitsu is ridiculous. I think Peter Barrett, though, if this is a dog and out fight, if you're not in the dog, if you're not betting on the underdog, you're not really trying to bet on the money line here for this fight. However, I think Peter Barrett has better stand-up game. I think he throws better punches in the clinch. And as long as he is not on his back, his ground game is actually really strong. And that's why I like him. Just at plus 265, as well as I feel the UFC wants to build something in Chase Hooper. You know, the whole storyline of calling him Ben Askren's son and that thing that was going on ESPN with Ariel. I think that's hilarious. I feel like there's a big storyline and a cloud that follows Chase Hooper, and they want to just keep on growing it. So I don't think I take the money line here. But the question I have for you on what you think should happen is, do you bet under 2.5 rounds, meaning that the fight's going to be closed out before it hits that final round, or do you think it makes it to that third and final round?
Honestly, I mean, from what I'm looking at, I see under 2.5 at minus 180. I definitely don't take that. Like, not that I don't think it's gonna go under, but Peter Barrett is a tough guy like that. If there's one thing you got to give to him, like he's not gonna give up easy. He's gonna keep going until the end. So that plus 150 seems uh, kind of a little low for the over 2.5. So if anything, I would go on the over 2.5. But as far as the money line, I'd agree with you. I would not take Chase Hooper at minus 340. I think he'll win the fight, but not at that price.
Yeah, it's not worth throwing the money out there.
Yeah. But as far as over under, I would definitely go over personally. I wouldn't trust like Chase Hooper could definitely take him down, get him in a triangle, get him in an armbar or something, but I wouldn't risk it at minus 180. That's too high for me.
Yeah, it all depends on who gets on top once they hit the ground. This fight right here isn't going to be one of those stand and bang and fight. Like you said, when he went up against Bruce Leroy in his last fight, Chase Hooper, he tried to be a boxer. I think he tried to show more of his game, and that's why he lost against Castore. I just like calling him Bruce Leroy. That's like one of the best nicknames you can have in the UFC. But he tried to show his hands there, and it just didn't work out for him. However, if he does get to the ground, whether it's off of his back or on top, just Chase is so creative. I mean, he's so long, so he can get you in multiple different ways. But like you said, Peter is very, very strong, and he also can take a punch. He's willing to sit in those beatings. I also view Peter as one of those guys that will just hang black out before I tap out type of character. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, definitely.
He's one of those guys that wants to prove that he deserves to be in there. So I agree with you. If there was a bet to be had on this fight, I just think this fight is very interesting. That's why we started talking about it right off the get. If there was a bet to be had on this fight, I'm definitely going with that over 2.5 rounds at plus 150. I think there's money to be made there. I do think it goes to that third round. However, there is a prop bet that it does not go to decision, and I would take that bet as well.
Yeah. Oh, what are the odds at on that?
I'm trying to pull it up right now, but my computer is not letting me get to it. Last I checked though that it goes doesn't go to decision. I think it was like plus 160, something like that.
Yeah, that's not bad. There's definitely value in that.
Yeah. Also, if there was a round that's gonna be won at plus 1100, another one to bet plus 1100, Peter Barrett wins round one. And that's not necessarily winning the fight in round one. Just Peter Barrett wins round one, and you can bet all the rounds, and that's also a bet. But that's only live, so you have to bet that live. If you do it now, that they're winning round one, that means that you're actually thinking they're going to win the fight. And I've learned that the hard way. But they do live betting. It's fairly new and can be kind of confusing. But for those that are looking for it, you can actually bet round by round what you think someone's going to get. It's very confusing. They go off points, and it's so weird. They go off the odds of the point card. So
it's not based off judges judging. It's not based off the judges' scorecards.
It technically is though. Like that's the thing. Like that's what makes it's pretty new. You can bet live on the rounds, and I'm guessing to be honest, I don't fully understand it. And I got gypped out of it one time, but then another because I said that someone was going to win just round one in general. And it said that, no, he actually had to win the entire fight. But then there was another time, and I think it was Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje, where I said Gaethje was going to win just round one, and I won on that one. So to understand that, I really don't know, but I do know that you can actually bet on something like that. So that's just something to like keep your eyes on, keep your ears open to. But yeah, that's pretty confusing. I can't really explain it to you, but I do know that that's a possibility. And if there's a round that Peter's going to win, and if he wants to win this fight, it's going to be round one.
Yeah, nowadays, if they can put odds on something, they're going to put odds on it. They're going to have people bet on it. They are getting creative with the way they're doing this thing now.
Definitely. So let's go ahead and move on to the next fight here. And this one, we're going to kind of go with the old man, Cub Swanson, going up against Daniel Pinata. This fight intrigues me. I love the underdog in this fight with Cub Swanson. Veteran, has something to prove here. I feel like the last couple fights he's been in, it's just been against top jiu-jitsu guys that he was actually looking good in his previous fight before he took that submission loss. So for me, at plus 135, I'm taking Cub Swanson over Daniel Pinata. What about you?
I was honestly thinking the opposite. Like,
Wow,
I love Cub. I mean, obviously he's been in the UFC a long time. He's put
long
on some
time.
great fights, but Pineda's been looking good recently. Like, he's got the experience too, so he's not like, it's not like he's a rookie or anything, but he's
Mhm.
back in the UFC, and I feel like the motivation wise, Pineda's got the edge just because he just got back into the UFC after a long stint outside of the UFC. So he's trying to prove something. A lot of people, he was like a plus 250 underdog against Herbert Burns, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
He won that fight. So he's got something to prove. And I know like two out of the last three fights ended up getting called a no contest due to like TRT or something testosterone related. But he's been looking good. Like he looked good against Herbert Burns.
Did he though?
His
Did he though? I
his,
mean,
I mean, what do you think?
I just
What do you think
the
about that fight?
I watched that fight again just because I was like, man. Every time I think of Pinata, I don't really think of anything like spectacular. I mean, the last time we really saw him before that fight against Burns was in 2014, right? Rob Whiteford, and he lost that fight as well. In that fight against Burns, he was getting pieced up. Like, if we're being honest, he was not winning that fight, and he just stuck it out and was able to get it there in that second round. I think there was a slip or something like that, right? That's how he got it.
I thought he won the first round. I was watching it the other day. Because what happened is he landed a couple good shots. He took a couple on the feet, and then it went to the ground, and he ended up getting a dominant position. And he did some damage from the top against the guy in Herbert Burns, who is, he may not be like the mixed martial artists, his brothers, but his jiu-jitsu's up there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I could have swore I just watched that. They just posted it on YouTube, and he wasn't looking good in that fight from how I was seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And Cub Swanson, I said he was coming off that loss because I was thinking of the Shane Burrows. He actually beat Kron Gracie and while he was actually showing his hands. So I feel like if you're looking at this fight, you're going to say Cub definitely has the advantage on the stand-up game. He's going to need to utilize his boxing. That's where he's going to find the win there. He does tend to gas out, and I feel like if he's going to win, it's going to be in either round 1 or early round 2. If it goes past the halfway point of round 2, I really don't know what Cub Swanson we're going to see at that point. But
yeah, what I'm expecting, because I was actually watching an interview of Daniel Pineda, and he just straight up came out and said he's like, I'm gonna take him down. I'm gonna try to take him down. So I think the first round I agree with you, Cub's gonna be the most dangerous in the beginning of the fight. I think he's gonna take him down. Hopefully, gas him out a little bit. Then if he wants to, he can stand up later once Cub's already tired. But what I'm banking on is that Daniel gets that early takedown and uses that to his advantage later in the fight.
Well, we definitely have a difference here. I feel like at plus 135, there's money to be made with Cub. Obviously, with Pinata, like you said, the advantage on the ground is going to be crazy. I also feel like the fact that he's coming with a lot of hype behind him, getting that Burns win, he's riding on a nice high. Swanson, that Kron Gracie fight, I mean, it was just Kron couldn't get him down, and if Kron would have got him down, I feel like that you would have seen a completely different fight there with Swanson. But like I said, it's going to be an early round. Like if you're betting on the underdog here with Cub Swanson, like I said, first round to the middle of the second is going to be your best bet. And at plus 135, I like a round and a half of Cub Swanson here. But at minus 165 as well, Daniel Pinata, there's money to be made there. So just, again, we got a coin flip. So you can't really go
agree
wrong.
On everything.
Exactly. We have also, again, right here, over under 2.5 rounds. The lines are the exact same at minus 115.
Mm-hmm.
So just like how you and I view this as a pick 'em, Vegas seems to be choosing that. They don't really know if it's going to go over or under 2.5 rounds here. If you were betting your money here, which one are you choosing?
I'd say over personally. Cub is tough. Like we've seen him in some battles where like the Choi fight, he took some damage and he gave out some crazy damage and they just kept on going. That was crazy. They got heart. They can take a shot. I think it goes over personally. I don't know if I'll put a bet on it. I'm not confident enough in that, but I'm gonna lean towards the over.
Lean towards the over. I'm leaning toward the over as well. Now, if you had to, there's these little prop bets here, right? There's Swanson plus 550 to win by knockout, TKO, or disqualification. Or there's Swanson by decision, or Pinata by knockout, TKO, or disqualification at plus 350. And then the last one that I want to show you is Pinata by submission plus 200. If you out of those three, obviously because Pinata is the favorite, I'm leaning more toward those prop bets. But of those three, which one would you want to bet on? Swanson by knockout, Pinata by knockout, or Pinata by submission?
You said the submission was plus 200?
Yeah, plus 200.
I think I'd go with...
Or would you not even
honestly, I
any of
think
those?
he might get the submission, but honestly, I think that plus 350 at knockout might be the juiciest, just if he gets some ground and pound off and finishes him. Obviously, it is a plus 350 bet, but I'd say that has the most value. In a couple of his last couple of fights, he's had a couple knockouts, and he's shown some pretty good ground and pound, in my opinion, at least.
This is a very interesting one, too. There's an option here, and this is why I think if Swanson wins, it's going to be by a knockout or decision, because at plus 325, Pinata you can bet on that for Pinata to win by decision or technical decision. And I think the reason for that is because Pinata doesn't get it to decision. He's all in. No matter what, he leaves it all there on the canvas. And that's why I really like this fight. I really don't know. I would say it goes to the third round, but I don't know if it makes it to decision. That's what makes this fight so interesting to me, and that's why I'm betting on that underdog there. Just because Pinata doesn't want to go to decision. Swanson's going to do everything he can to stay on his feet, but if it gets to the ground, it could be over early. Like, that's what makes this fight so confusing to me. With Chase Hooper, I think we kind of know. But with this fight, with Cub Swanson and Pinata, I feel like there's no telling what could really happen there, you know?
There's so many different ways, because both guys are talented guys, you know? It just depends on who can kind of impose their game plan the best, honestly. Like, if Cub keeps it on the feet and starts striking with them and pieces them up, that's definitely possible. But at the same time, Daniel could put some pressure on him and take him down, so... just got to see how it plays out.
As we start heading down to the latter half of this card here, and we're going to get down to like our last 3 or 4 fights, I want to remind everyone that we do have a wager pass for $9.99 here at hoop-ball.com. You guys can go on there, subscribe to it, so you guys know exactly what we will be betting on this day. So right now, when we're doing this podcast, Eric and I are just going over the card, going over the current lines that mybookie.com, mybookie.ag, a sponsor of hoop-ball.com show here, is giving us, and they're giving you. And we're just kind of overviewing it, which way we're kind of leaning currently in this moment. But for $9.99, you guys get a complete look at our full wager pass on what games we are actually putting money on, how we're putting money on them. We do a 3-point system. 1 point means, just do a little bit. 2 means it's a normal bet what you can. And 3 means like you're emptying out that entire bankroll on that thing. And we have bets for every single sport. So definitely go on hoop-ball.com, use promo code HoopBall, get a discount on there. Again, wager pass is only $9.99, guys. You guys spend more than that at a McDonald's. You're probably in a McDonald's drive-thru right now buying a meal for $9.99. Save that money, put it back in your pocket, go home, go on hoop-ball.com and sign up for this wager pass so we can make you more money so you can buy more McDonald's. Let's get a McFlurry with that deal, huh, Eric? Let's get him that McFlurry. Let's move on.
That McDonald's not making you money.
McDonald's ain't making
football passes.
Exactly. That wager pass is. Eric and I are making you money. We're trying to do that for you. But you just got to put $9.99 in. $9.90 in. And we're going to get you those dubs. As we move on down the card here, Eric, Junior Dos Santos versus, I can't even pronounce his first name, Cyril?
I think Cyril Gane,
yeah. I think it's Gain, right? Cyril Gain.
Yeah, it is Gain.
Yeah, Gain.
Right.
So Junior Dos Santos versus Cyril Gain. I have no reason why for this, but at plus 325, are they disrespecting JDS?
I think his chin is the problem. Like he's just in his recent fights, he's shown that he'll fight a good fight and he'll just get caught with a shot and it'll just go from hot to cold. It's just a completely different fight. He just gets finished. And Cyril Gane he's legit. I mean, he's huge. He's like pure muscle, and he just moves like a middleweight or like a welterweight. It's crazy. The odds are definitely crazy at minus 425. I think Cyril's got what it takes to finish him, but yeah, those odds are crazy. I was honestly very surprised when I saw that.
Plus 325. I mean, it's so hard to say the name Junior Dos Santos and not be like, oh, he's gonna probably has a good chance of winning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know. Yeah. I know he's not the same JDS that we all know from just like 3-4 years ago, but I don't know, the power in that man's hands, the ability of what he can do with those leg kicks. I feel like Dos Santos at plus 325 is a solid lottery ticket. It's a solid. Let me tell you this though. Gane is real. Like, he kind of reminds me of like a heavier Dominic Reyes. Is that crazy? He's just constantly moving in out, and he's fast.
Yeah, the way he moves at his size, it's what's crazy. Like, there are fighters that move like that at middleweight, sometimes light heavyweight, welterweight, but not at heavyweight. It's rare.
Yeah, he's very quick. I just think Dos Santos, if he catches him,
it's heavyweight, you know.
Yeah,
it's heavyweight. You never know.
Yeah, that's the best part. If you're looking for a lottery ticket, and this is a lottery ticket fight, not only is it a heavyweight fight, so there's power in both people's hands, but under 1.5 rounds, over 1.5 rounds, like that's the bet here. So
yeah, I was looking at that too. I have under at plus 125. I think that's a solid bet.
You think it's over in round 1?
It's very high possibility. Like, both guys, I mean, like I said, it's heavyweight. Both guys have some power in their hands. Dos Santos's chin isn't what it used to be. So if he gets caught with a good shot, it can be over quick. But at plus, I feel like it should be max at like a pick'em. It's at a plus 125. There's some value there.
It just depends on how you're looking at him, right? Like, let's just go over Dos Santos's last 4 fights, okay? So you go back to 2019. He fights Francis Ngannou in the main event on UFC ESPN, and he's knocked out in the first minute and 11 seconds, right? That's Francis Ngannou. Fast. Future champion in this division, right? His next fight, he goes and he knocks out what arguably one of the top contenders behind to face Ngannou for a championship soon, Derek Lewis, and he knocks him out with 2 minutes in the second round, right? You go to his next fight, then he goes against Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades knocks him out in the second round, and he loses in a knockout to Rosenstrauch in the second round with 4 minutes in the round, right? I feel like he lasts. I think you take the over here. I don't think he's going to be gone round 1. I really don't.
Yeah, because the thing, and Junior Dos Santos, he's a smart fighter. He's not going to come in swinging, like throwing a Hail Marys. So that's definitely a possibility where the first round ends up being more of a feel-out round and they don't throw too many fight enders. Mm-hmm. That's also a very good possibility. But Junior, the thing with Junior, like, he'll come out, he'll look good. It's just the chin holding up. That's the only worry I have about him. Right. But he, like, as far as fighting, he fights great. He fights almost as good as he did 3-4 years ago. It's just taking the shots. That's the only thing I'm worried about him.
Yeah, that Rosenstrauch fight, I think if you watch that one and you think that if you thought he looked good in that fight before he got caught, then I think you in your mind, you think he's going to look good in this fight. The problem is, Gane, 6-0 fighter, he's coming in ready. Like, he wants to make a name for himself in this open division. Away from Stipe and Francis Ngannou, there's a reasonable pathway for Gane to basically shoe his way in there with 3 solid wins, right? You go to Santos, you then put him up against Rosenstrauch, and then if you get those 2 wins, those are 2 big names under your belt. I think that gives him a chance for a title shot. And at that point, he's already 8-0 as a heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know, so he has that on his shoulder. He's 2 fights away from a title fight. And the title fight's still being worked out between Stipe and Ngannou, and I cannot wait for that fight. I cannot. That's arguably my most anticipated fight for 2021. And we can talk about that at the end of the show, but start thinking of your most anticipated fight in 2021. Because this is our last pay-per-view of the year. I can't believe we're already at this point. So
I know. Yeah, I'm waiting for that fight. I'm waiting for Francis. Honestly, I'm waiting for Francis to fight anybody. Like, I just want to see that guy fight and knock another guy out.
I'll be honest. We'll talk about that in the show. Let's get through this card. So over under. You're taking the plus 115 at the under on 1.5 rounds, correct?
If anything, I would personally I'd take the under.
And me personally, I say go over. I think Dos Santos knows that this guy's going to come out there swinging. This is my prediction for the fight. Like, I'm just going to give you a full breakdown of what I think I'm going to see here. What I see for a Dos Santos win, I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm saying if this is how I envision him winning, is he's going to go out there and he's going to manage distance. He's going to jab, overhand hook, and then escape. Constantly looking for escape. I think Gane's going to try and go in there and throw in a wild combination, consistently trying to tag Dos Santos, and it's just going to be up to him to be able to counter. I don't think you're going to be able to see a lot of swings from Santos unless he gets that nice overhand. He makes it to round 2, and then that's where you see if Gane has the ability to last in those middle of those rounds after taking hits, because he's going to get hit and he's going to get kicked. And that's the only way Santos wins, is if he can extend the fight. If he wins, it's by decision. I don't think anyone goes, or it's by knockout, not by or decision for Santos. It's knockout or decision. I don't think it goes to submission. I don't think you're going to see any of that. I think you're going to see these two guys punching, and like you said, that's probably why you lean more towards Gane here, because if it's going to be a punching match, Gane's going to have the advantage all day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but no, I agree. If there's as far as money line, if there's a bet to be made, it's definitely Dos Santos at plus 325. At heavyweight, I feel like the odds in general, they shouldn't be this wide. Like, especially when you're talking about two high level guys like this. Like, one shot could change it. Like one shot could finish the fight. So just taking that into account, the odds should not be this wide.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a big name. It's Junior Dos Santos. It's a huge name in the UFC. Shown that he can win the big fights, right? And he's at plus 325. I mean, obviously, again, it's a lottery ticket. Everything we just talked about leans more and more people to Gane, right? But at minus 425, are you really taking him there? And at the over under being at 1.5 rounds, at minus 145, that's where I'm going. But I mean, does that really intrigue you? No. I mean, you bet on the underdog here. That's where the money could be made, and you put a lottery ticket for $100. You can win 325. Let's just put it.
Yeah. We're not talking about what's most likely to happen. We're talking about what bet has the most value in it.
Right. Exactly.
So keeping that in mind, I'd go Dos Santos if you're going money line.
Let's move on to the next fight, and these next 4 fights right here. Well, 3.5 fights. Well, the Dern fight I'm not super excited about, but these fights right here, I am super excited for. And let's go off this first one. Kevin Holland facing off against Ronaldo Souza. Man.
Great fight.
This is Holland's biggest test. Him talking. He's getting that hype because of that conversation he had with Israel Adesanya. That's the only reason why there's so much hype behind his name. But Souza is real, and he is very, very dangerous, and I love this fight. What are your thoughts on this fight, Eric?
So we saw Holland fight against... I mean, we've seen a lot of quick finishes out of Holland, which I think is going to sway the odds a little bit, which shouldn't necessarily. But the one fight that he's had that I watched recently that kind of sticks out to me is against Darren Stewart. That's kind of the most stylistically, that's probably the most similar fight he's had in the UFC to Jacare. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, he won by split decision against a guy who's not even close to Jacare as far as skill level and experience. I know Jacare is like 41 years old, but he does not look like it. Like, look at his body, the way he moves, the way he fights. He does not fight like a 41-year-old.
Not at all.
So... I'm personally leaning towards Jacare a little bit, mainly because of that fight. Like, I think Jacare should be able to close the distance. Obviously, if it stays at a striking range, Kevin Holland's gonna piece him up. Kevin Holland's got quick hands. He's got great movement, but Jacare's got to be able to close that distance.
Jacare is one of the strongest grapplers in the UFC. Still. Age 41. One of the most dangerous grapplers you can face in the UFC. So strong in the clinch. Even scarier on the ground. Here's the thing.
He was stronger than light heavyweights. Now he's going back down to middleweight.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. His last 2 fights. Jack Hermanson lost by decision. Jan Blachowicz lost by decision. And it's just... 41. That's That's the number. The odds know it too. The odds you don't know, because Kevin Holland has a lot of hype because of conversation. Holland knows how to promote himself. This whole Israel Adesanya talking about I'm gonna see you soon stuff in the ring. That's a lot of hype by his name. Like you said, Holland getting a lot of those little highlights in him, right? Those highlight knockouts, those quick fights. It's good. It's nice to see. All I'm saying is like you said, Jacare's scary, man. There's a reason why this is a coin. I'm going to go Holland, though. I think you go with age. I think you go with those head kicks. I think you go with his size. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think as soon as the fight starts, Jacare looks for the takedown no matter what? Like, that's the game plan. You don't stand up at all with Holland. You take him down and you make him feel your pressure on the ground.
He's going to clinch him. I think he's going to put some pressure on him, get him against the fence. Try to put some clinch work in him, get some dirty boxing in, and then eventually go for the takedown. Because you don't want to strike with Holland. Holland's got some good striking, and you saw the way he slept multiple people. Buckley slept him with one shot. Like, Jacare can strike. He's striking solid for a jiu-jitsu guy like himself, but he does not want to strike with him. If he strikes, he's most likely losing that fight.
This is why I'm also like, this is why I'm scared of Jacare. If you bet Holland, you should be nervous. Like, you should not think, age got it, because I think he's only fought really one submission fighter, and that was on the Dominic Reyes Weidman card back on October of 2019, and he got submitted. Those fights after that, striker, kickboxer. Gerald Mersakati, the guy that got knocked out by Khamzat.
Gerald Meerschaert.
Yeah,
I think it's pronounced
he
like that.
thinks he's a striker. He's not a real striker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Darren Stewart, again, he's not a real striker. I mean, Holland's
he's got some power.
Yeah, definitely got power, but he's not a real striker.
Yeah.
Holland is a
doesn't
true
have a
striker, and that was a great fight. That Darren Stewart fight was a great fight. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just Holland had that size on him, and he was able to get points, inside leg, overhand. Like, he just had that size on him. With Jacare, the pressure and the fact that it looks like he can make you not breathe when he's sitting on top of you. You know what I mean? And
boa constrictor.
Yeah, you're making me just talking about it, and the fact that you said you're going to it, I'm going to Jacare too. I would wait though. I think the day of, like you said, Eric, I think Kevin will become a bigger favorite. Day of fight, Jacare will become a betting underdog. I think you take the betting underdog there, right?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't put the bet yet. I was waiting. I think once they start showing some highlights, once they start doing all that, people are going to start pouring money in on Holland. Yeah. Once that happens, hopefully I can get Jacare maybe at like a plus 100. Hopefully.
I think he goes, this is my personal opinion, I think he goes plus 120. That's the max.
That'd be great.
I think you get plus 120, and then you'll see Holland at like a minus 110. Like, I think you'll only see him go down a little bit, but the money will be leaning more toward that way. But Vegas would know that the scariness of what Jacare brings. Mm-hmm. Over under, again, this is another coin flip here. Over under 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, that definitely is a coin flip. If I was to bet on the over-under, I would personally say I would do under, I think.
Under 2.5 rounds. Wow.
Yeah. I feel like, if Jacare gets him down, I think he could finish it with a submission. But at the same time, if Holland gets his striking together, he can also finish it with a knockout. If anything, I would go with the under.
Under 2.5 rounds. Man, it's not here yet. It's not. I'm looking through all these prop bets, and it doesn't show that it's there. You can say there's a bet that pops up that says, will the fight go the distance? That's an actual bet. Like, this fight will go the distance. It's normally like, sometimes it's like a plus 100 or plus 115. With this fight, being that it's a coin flip, you'll probably see it in that number as well. I take that one. I think the fight goes the distance.
Definitely a possibility, especially when you're getting into these fights that have how the stakes are higher. Guys tend to be a little bit more safe, so they definitely have the ability. It just depends on how their mindset is, if they're trying to finish it or if they're trying to play it safe and get that decision win.
Coming off 2 losses now, and at age 41, let me ask you this as well: is Jacare fighting for his UFC career with this fight?
I
If he
mean,
loses, is
Dana
this the
has been
time to
mentioning
fight?
they've been doing a lot of cuts recently. He just cut Yoel Romero. They actually, I don't know if you saw, they asked him about it. They said, what do you think about the recent cuts, like in relation to you? He said, he's like, I'm not in the same situation as Romero, so I don't think he's worried about it. Uh, I think he thinks he's fine. He's not on the cusp of being cut, and I don't think he should be. I don't know exactly what the extent is of these cuts, how much money the UFC has lost that they're cutting these guys, but I don't think he should be as far as level. Like he's up there. I don't care if he's 41. He's fighting at a high level.
So is Yoel though. I think the Yoel thing is more if he demands so much money because of his fights.
I think
He's
the
such a big
Yoel
name.
thing is, I mean, so he got these title shots, and I mean, when you get someone a title shot, you do all this marketing against Izzy, and then he fights the way he does, like with no committal, no sense of urgency or anything.
First second you see him, he walks and then puts his hands above his head in the middle of the octagon and just stands in a defensive mode, waiting for the champion to come after you like you're the champion.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Like I
No.
understand you're trying to be a counter striker, but in a title fight, if you got to win the fight, you're not trying to let the champion come to you. You got to go get him.
What was a more disappointing fight to you, that Yoel fight or Israel's fight against Paulo Costa?
Honestly, I mean they were both pretty bad. Like the Yoel fight was just bad for longer. The Paulo fight, Paulo just came out looking flat. I don't know. I think he said he had an injury. I don't know exactly what
you
happened.
Don't say that,
but
bro. Stop it.
yeah,
Paulo,
he did not look like himself.
Yeah, that was.
But there has to be there. I think there had to be something. I don't think that fight goes the same way if they fight again. I mean, some people might say no. I don't want to see another Costa versus Izzy, but I'd be down because I don't think that goes. I think Costa goes all out.
I'd be down.
Goes all out if they fight.
I'd be down for a Costa rematch, but here's the thing: he doesn't deserve it right away. He's all talking.
No, not right away.
He needs 3-4 fight win streak again. You can't get.
Yeah, it depends on who he beats, but
he needs 3-4 fight win streak for sure. Like his next fight, if it's not against him, it has to be against Robert Whittaker. Or it has to be against Darren Till. Something with a name behind it, because you're not getting that title shot right away. And you have to, and with his return, being that it's going to be his first fight after that, I'm going to say the embarrassing loss he took against Adesanya, the way he looked in that fight, it would have to be something crazy.
Yeah, no, he would have to, like you said, at least 3 or 4 fights, unless he beats, like the number 1 ranked guy, and he really makes a case and he does it impressively, because it's not just about beating him. If he dominates like the number 1 ranked guy and cuts in line, he's going to need to work his way back up, because I mean, if you fight for the belt and you barely lose, or put up a good fight, that's one thing, but when you go in there and just get slaughtered, like, you don't deserve a fight for a while.
This is how you know the UFC has so many storylines in it. I still feel like it's such an up-and-coming sport still, too, because not a lot of people know it the way that you and I are talking about it right now. We got completely off base of the Jacare-Holland fight. So let's just recap it here before we move on to the Mackenzie Dern fight. You have Jacare, Kevin Holland. As of right now, at the coin flips, are you waiting, or are you automatically leaning Jacare? You're taking it here at -115.
I would even take it at -115, but I think it's going to sway towards Holland. I think Jacare is going to be a slight underdog, so I'm going to wait. But I would still take it at this -115.
Over, under, if you just have to choose one, over, under 2.5 rounds, which one are you taking?
I'm going to say under. I like it. I think it's a coin flip like the odds say, but if anything, I would say under.
Would you bet Jacare wins by knockout, or would you bet Jacare wins by submission?
No, on this one, I would say submission. I think if he finishes the fight, he's going to take him down. He's going to wear him down a bit and get him in a guillotine or something, rear naked choke.
So Jacare by submission is +225. Holland by knockout. And this is why you have me also leaning toward Jacare here. Check this out. Jacare is a +225. A submission specialist, +225, right? But you go to Holland, knocking out Jacare is still +450. And supposedly Kevin Holland is this amazing striker. But is he really? This is his biggest test, and it's a 41-year-old Jacare. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Jacare is just showing he can take a shot.
Yeah.
There's that too, and that's factored into that +450.
I just
But
think Jacare fighting Jan Blachowicz, the current champ right now, that
went 5 rounds with him too.
5 rounds, was able to sit on the ground with him, was able to take those body punches, was able to take those headshots. Jan Blachowicz has the scariest hands to your face, like one of the scariest hands you can take to your face. So, since I went into this going Holland, you've convinced me. Go Jacare. So everyone go Jacare here. I would wait though at -115. I'm waiting until day of because I agree with you. I think once they start bringing up the hype train tomorrow or today when you're listening to the show Friday, and they start doing the ESPN previews and they start doing that whole YouTube show where they go inside the cage, I think it's going to lean more and more toward Holland the day of fight, leading into the fight. You probably can get Jacare at like +125. Again, that's where your money should be. I think +1. He can just take the punch. He'll also close the distance, and he'll make sure he can't breathe. Holland's gonna have to show that he's grown from his last fight to this one. He's gonna need to show that he can keep distance, that he can keep the fight on the feet, and show that he is actually this truly elite striker. Because his next fight, if he does win after Jacare, is gonna be something good. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be a name. So
yeah, and that's another thing to consider when you're talking about a young guy like Kevin Holland. They improve from fight to fight. So the Kevin Holland you saw last fight might not be the Kevin Holland you see this fight, but I'm still gonna go Jacare. But that's just another thing to consider when you're talking about a young fighter like Kevin Holland.
It wouldn't surprise me if his next fight, and I believe that they're in the same weight class here at middleweight, his next fight could be Jack Hermansson.
Very possible.
If he's able to beat Jacare. Hermansson, who's coming off of a loss, that could be exactly what he's looking at. So, throwing that out there. As we move on to the next fight here, right? I like this fight mainly just because I like Mackenzie Dern a lot, and I can't even pronounce her opponent's name. Verna Jandorba.
I want to try that.
Jandoroba.
I believe that's how it is.
Verna Jandoroba. +155, and Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern, I think, is something special when she's not fighting any of the champs. Any of the women champs, I don't care who it is. They are above everyone else except for Zhang. I want to see Zhang Weili fight against Rose Namajunas. That's the only fight that I feel like there's a true contender there. Everyone else, I don't know if there's anybody close to
yeah, that's
to
the
touch
problem
them.
with the women's divisions. It's just the champs are so good, and they're just the challengers are just a couple steps below, and
But
that's
Mackenzie
just.
Dern,
I mean,
there's levels to it, and you can notice it
Yeah.
right away. Mackenzie Dern is on a really good level. She is going to win this fight at -185. Before it gets to -200, I'm touching that all day. That's a good $200 bet for sure.
no, I agree. Yeah, whether you're putting a straight bet or as a part of a parlay, because I mean, the only thing her opponent has is jiu-jitsu. Like, her striking game is very subpar from what I've seen. And Dern's, I'm not going to say Dern has perfect striking, but I mean, it's getting better with each fight, and it's definitely a lot better than her opponents. And I'm saying her opponent because I don't want to pronounce that name. And of course, on the ground, Dern is as good as anybody. So, John Duro, I feel like their jiu-jitsu kind of cancels out, and Dern just kind of takes the striking.
I think Mackenzie Dern's going to submit her. I just feel like she's kind of turning into like a new-aged Ronda. Like, she just gets someone on the ground. She just looks heavy for her weight class. That's strawweight, you know? And she just handles people on the ground. I think she wins this by submission. I think it happens early. I think it happens in the first 2 rounds. I would go under 2.5 rounds on this one, which is +115. I don't think it goes the distance. I don't think it goes the third. I think at +115, there's money to be made there. Mackenzie Dern takes this to the ground and finishes early.
So yeah, it's very possible. Even though Jandarova definitely has great ground game, I feel like if Dern kind of stops a couple takedowns and lands a couple shots, Jandarova's going to get a little desperate. She's going to shoot for some shots and get caught. She can easily get caught in a choke, or with Dern, you could literally get caught in any submission. She's a world champion in jiu-jitsu, like multiple gold medals. It's crazy. She's a very high-level competitor.
Yeah, I mean, she's 16-1. The thing that makes me think Mackenzie Dern's got this, first off, is age. She's 27. Jandarova's 32. And I know that they're both going to be weighing in there at like 115. there's something about she is girthy. She just looks like she's too big for that division, and she's so strong. She is so strong. I think she wins in those first 2 rounds. I really do. Yeah. I would take that. I think there's money to be made on this fight. I think this is a big money, one of the bigger money winning fights here. At minus 185, tapping McKenzie during there, under 2.5 rounds, plus 115. I'm tapping that one as well. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, definitely on the same page with you on this one.
All right, now we're getting to our main events here, Eric. And again, I want to remind everyone that we aren't actually giving you what we're putting our money on quite yet. We're just saying which way our money is leaning at this point. We are recording on a Thursday. You guys are listening here on a Friday. These fights will be on Saturday night. So if you want to know what picks we are having, be sure to go to hoop-ball.com and go click on that wager pass. It's only $9.99. You guys can save your money. Don't go out to eat for one day. Instead, go online and go ahead and get one on that wager pass so we can help you guys win more money. And then there'll be more stuff for you guys to go out and buy. And hey, it's Christmas time, so it's good to add a little bit more money to your bankroll, right? So
pay for a couple gifts.
Exactly. And I think this next fight is a gift. It's a gift to the MMA world because I love this fight. This is just for viewing. If there was a fight, if you've never watched the UFC before ever, and you're like, this is going to be the card because of Eric and Vince and hoop-ball.com start talking about MMA, this is the one I want to start watching. I would say don't watch any fight until you watch this fight right here. Charles Oliveira, Tony Ferguson. Eric, what are your thoughts?
That is crazy. I've been waiting for Tony to fight for a while now, ever since the Gaethje fight, and I don't think there's a better matchup as far as, whether you're a big MMA fan, whether you're a hardcore MMA fan, this is a great fight for everybody, Tony Ferguson, of course, he was on that 12-fight win streak before he took the loss to Justin Gaethje. So this is kind of going to be a matchup of a jiu-jitsu guy in Charles Oliveira and a guy in Tony Ferguson who's a great striker and is also great on the ground and jiu-jitsu wise. I personally think that Tony Ferguson has the slight edge here just because of the striking game. Charles has he's gotten a lot better in striking. When you watch that Kevin Lee fight, he pieced up Kevin Lee, and Kevin Lee's not the best striker, but he's a solid striker. But I feel like Ferguson, the way Ferguson fights, he doesn't care if he gets hit. He'll take 2 or 3 shots so he can land 5 or 6. So he's gonna go in there, and
that's personally, the question, though, right? Though what's that? That's the question, though, right? Can he still take a punch after what happened to him against Gaethje? Which was honestly, it sounds like it was that long ago, but it really wasn't that long ago, right? It was like the very first fight they did. In this pandemic, right? Wasn't that fight back in March or June?
That was the first card they did.
Yeah. So,
but when you look at that fight, Ferguson never went down. I know he got beat up, but he even when the ref stopped the fight, he was still standing. So, I personally think he's going to be fine. And I don't think Oliveira's striking is crisp. It's good, but I don't think he has the power to hurt Ferguson because Ferguson. Obviously it's a question mark after that Gaethje fight, but I think his chin is going to hold up enough for him to take those 2 or 3 shots I mentioned before and come in and just put that pressure and just pepper up Oliveira. And Oliveira might take the first round, but I feel like Tony's going to keep that pressure up and fight at a pace that I feel like only he can at that division and eventually start winning the striking battle. But if it goes to the ground, Oliveira has the most submissions in UFC history, so he can definitely finish it there. But Ferguson's just a slimy guy. He's not the type of guy to let you get a hold of him that easy. He just slips out in crazy ways.
I just think I just don't know how that chin's gonna. Yeah, he cut weight twice. Everyone brings that up for the Gaethje fight. He cut weight twice for that card. He just wanted to fight. He was on a 12-fight winning streak before he ever took that L. It's just, man, those were some heavy-hitting punches from Gaethje.
And with the no crowd, you can hear that, man. You can hear it from your living room.
If you wanted to fight before this Oliveira fight, look up UFC Fight Pass and go watch that fight. That fight, man, that put the UFC on notice on why. I think that if that fight didn't happen the way that it did, I don't think the UFC would be as popular through this pandemic as it has been. That's just being personally honest right there. That put on a show in that Gaethje fight, but in that fight. Ferguson took a lot of hits to that face. And yeah, like you said, he didn't go down, and he went out on his feet, but the way he was handling those, at one point, he couldn't really stand. I don't know how he stood on his feet for that long.
Because he's insane, bro. Like,
he's a monster.
Tony Ferguson is not a regular human being. That guy is, I don't even know what he is. He's like, he just takes damage, and he likes it. I feel like he was enjoying it, too.
Yeah, he was. It's crazy to see, like, the next day in the hospital, he's dancing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. But Oliveira, I think what gets Oliveira and what's going to make him and this an intriguing matchup is how Ferguson attacks those head kicks that Oliveira likes to throw. Those high head, random, like he'll look like he's setting up a leg kick, but then jump to a high head kick. Those are going to be crazy. And then he's going to ambush him for the takedown. I think Ferguson definitely knows how to gauge a distance. What I really don't want to see from Ferguson are those ridiculous leg punches on his feet that he was giving Gaethje. Those were
useless. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, punch him in the face, not his thigh.
It made absolutely no sense at all. And for those people, and I see this all the time, my buddy tells me this all the time, like, oh, Tony Ferguson's a black belt jiu-jitsu. He's a crazy good jiu-jitsu artist. You know, he trains with Joe Rogan's guy all the time. Like, he's so good. I'm like, yeah, I know he's good, but when's the last time you've seen him go for a takedown in a UFC fight?
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's not usually the one initiating it, but he's comfortable when it gets there. Like, he's not. He's no slouch. And from the bottom, you know, he has those slicing elbows where he just cuts guys up.
How many rounds until you see a spinning elbow?
I think 10 seconds maybe. If
you see the high kick,
Jorge Masvidal.
Right, if you see a high kick from Oliveira, do you think he follows it up with a jab spinning elbow? Is that just the way it goes in there?
Very easily could.
I mean, we haven't, and just so you guys know, like why I'm saying you never seen him take out, we haven't even seen Tony Ferguson submit anybody since he submitted Kevin Lee. And, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't look to submissions. He just knows how to handle himself, especially off of his back. I think he's the scariest off of his back because, like you said, he's so slimy, he's so wiggly. He knows how to make sure you can't touch him. He's constantly moving. His motor never slows down, and that's what puts Tony Ferguson as the favorite, I think, right here at minus 175, plus 145 for Oliveira. I think at minus 175, it's just like Mackenzie Dern. It's an easy tap on that 175. I love Tony Ferguson. I think this is a redemption fight for him. I like it at minus 175.
I feel like the guys that are going to give Tony the most trouble are guys like Gaethje who are going to land those big shots. But when someone's throwing shots that Tony could take and not even blink, he can go through those punches and land his 4 or 5 punches that he wants to land. So I personally am going to go with Ferguson. I honestly wouldn't blame anybody for going for Oliveira just because Oliveira is great. I love the way he fights. I just like the matchup in this case.
I feel like you're going to see this is going to sound weird, but I feel like you're going to see like a dance with these two. Like, you're going to see high kicks, you're going to see spins, you're going to see leg sweeps, you're going to see you're going to see a lot in this fight.
Yeah, I want to see some
grappling
grappling transitions.
And I love that they made this 5. Didn't they make this 5 rounds for the co-main, or is it still only 3?
I think it's 3.
Oh my goodness! I wish this was a 5 round
I
fight.
honestly haven't heard anything about it being 5 rounds.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the co-mains are still only 3 rounds unless it's a title fight.
The co-mains, it's only when it's a title fight that they make it a 5 rounder usually.
Title fight or the main event. Title fight or a main event are only 5 rounders. You're right. Man, 3 rounds over under 2.5 rounds. Which one are you taking on this one? It's crazy to me that the over is 130.
Yeah, the over's at a plus 135, and like most of the fights these guys fight in ends in a finish, which is why I think that over is at a plus 135. But personally, I was looking at the over, if anything, that plus 135. Like, it could easily be finished with. I mean, these guys could finish it in so many ways, but I just think the value is in the over, just because Tony could take his shots. I feel like Charles could take Tony's shots, and it's only a 3-rounder, so they're gonna be giving it their all, but I personally think it's gonna go over.
I agree. I think at plus 1, and you see it at 135. I see it at plus 130. So that means either like someone's getting a newer odd, or one of us has a newer odd, and at 130 still, I take that as well. I think what this fight turns into is I think Oliveira will try to keep it on his feet, Notice that Ferguson has the advantage, but Ferguson isn't one of those guys that has that like crazy knockout power. Oliveira is going to be able to take the punch. It's going to come down to a wrestling match, and I think it goes to round 3. I don't think it goes to decision, but I definitely think it goes to round 3, and that's where the money is for sure. You take that plus 130 for me as well. If you had to bet on a win here, would you do
a win?
Would you do a Oliveira by submission for 350 or a Ferguson by submission for 550?
Damn. I don't think Ferguson submits him. I would take Oliveira in that case because I feel like if Oliveira does win, it's most likely by submission. I don't think he wins a decision against Ferguson. So yeah, I would take the 350 personally. I don't see a scenario where Tony Ferguson submits Charles.
Do you think there's a? Would you go with Ferguson by knockout for plus 180?
I think I just go with the money line personally.
Yeah, that minus
I think it goes to decision personally. I don't know.
You think it goes to decision? I don't know if it goes.
I think it's going late. I think it's going late for sure.
So you can do
high level guys.
You can do Ferguson by decision for plus 330.
I might do that. That's not a bad option.
Ferguson by decision plus 330, or you can do Oliveira by decision plus 500.
I would probably lean towards that Ferguson, just because I feel like these guys are both high level guys. Like, I don't think they're gonna make the mistakes necessary for a fight to be ended. They're like they've been finishing guys, but most of the guys they've been finishing are guys that are lower level than each other. So I feel like their skill sets are kind of gonna cancel out, and it ends up going to decision. But you never know.
I think I'm agreeing with you, man. I think plus 330. If you already think Ferguson's going to win, I think you do a straight money line bet minus 175. You want another lottery ticket? Plus 330 Ferguson by decision.
Yeah.
That is nice. That's a nice one.
That's a good lunch money bet.
I also like the over on 2.5 rounds. I think it goes to round 3 for sure. I don't even think there's a doubt in my mind because you can definitely see a knockout, especially since this is combat fighting, but over 2.5 rounds seems nice. Oliveira knows how to keep his distance with his feet. Ferguson shows he can take a punch. And
yeah, like I said, I think what's swaying the odds there is just the fact that they've been finishing so many of their fights, but they haven't been against top guys. Like, they haven't been against guys at each other's level. So I think in this case it goes to the past the 2.5.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's where I'm circling that one for sure. That's going to be a big. If you had to give a point spread on that, like, which way are you leaning toward, like a 2-point bet or a 3-point bet if you were going to bet on that one?
As far as like a unit bet?
Yeah, a unit bet for the over under, for that under or the over 2.5 rounds.
I would probably just do a base 1 unit bet on that, if anything.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the last fight here on this card, and this has been a very fun show. I can't wait to go over next week's card either. The final fight. I mean, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Jeff Neal. I mean, that Marlon Moraes comes back.
Yeah, those are the next card is almost as interesting as this one.
Right.
Some crazy fights.
Greg
Hardy, Marcin Tybura.
Greg Hardy fight is the biggest. That's going to be his biggest fight. And I don't know if he wins that one. Like, we'll talk about it. It's a coin flip right now too. Odds have that set at minus 115, and that's in 2 weeks, December 19th. Another really good fight. That's the final UFC card of the year. So you're going to see a show on that one.
And one fight on that fight that is ridiculous is Chaos Williams against Michael Pereira. That's as good of a fight as I've seen far as on the under, not in the main event.
What about Jose Aldo, Marlon Vera?
I love that fight too.
Oh my gosh. Jose Aldo is a monster, but Marlon Vera is too. Oh man, December 19th is going to be a good card. Okay, so last fight here on UFC 256. What are these guys? They were like 3 weeks apart since their last fight. They were both fighting on the same card.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, they both fought on the same card. Davison Figueiredo retains his belt and is now fighting against Brandon Moreno. Good, interesting fight. I just feel like the odds are just too crazy because Moreno's on a hot streak. He's young. He's feisty. He seems like he's ready. Figueiredo just seems like he was born to be a champion. You know, like he just the way he presents himself, and I love that.
That's what it is.
I love that Ariel and DC, they give him that props of like he's actually the one that saved the division instead of Henry Cejudo because he stays and he holds his belt. This is also his 4th title fight of the year. I think that's pretty crazy.
And Figueiredo just has that, I don't know, it's like an aura. It's something about him that personally it's hard for me to bet against him. Like I know the odds are kind of crazy, minus 320 against a guy like Brandon Moreno, he's solid, man. Like he's got all the tools you need. But Figueiredo, I personally cannot bet against him. The way he's just a scary dude. He's a scary dude.
I'm gonna say this. We've mentioned a few lottery tickets out there. Brandon Moreno is my favorite lottery ticket.
Yeah.
He is my favorite lottery ticket. He is so fast. He is so crafty if he snatches you. And if he will let you punch him just so he can hit you harder. Moreno is so interesting. And I feel like
you can't let Figueiredo punch you. That's the only thing.
Right.
You do not want to get hit by that guy.
For a very like I mean, look at what are they, flyweight? I mean, they're pretty small here. For a small dude like Figueiredo, that dude carries crazy power in those hands.
Yeah, have you seen his stance recently? He holds that right hand, like basically letting the other guy know, like, I'm trying to fire this thing off. Like you don't know when it's gonna come, but I'm trying to like knock you out with this right hand. Not even like he has the left hand just outstretched, like not even posing a threat with it. He's just holding it out there, throwing some jabs with it. He's letting the other guy know, like, I'm trying to knock you out with this right hand.
I'll stand by it. As Moreno is my favorite lottery ticket, and I'm gonna say this here too. If Moreno wins, it's not going to decision. It's one of 2 ways: head kick or submission. That's the only 2 ways he's winning. And okay. I love that about this guy. He's at the same time, this fight could be over within 2 rounds. This fight literally could be over in 2 rounds. Figueiredo could just weigh on him early, apply the pressure, gets the center of the octagon, and just makes him walk backwards the entire time. And Moreno never escapes that pressure. And Figueiredo shows why he deserved all these title shots. Like the first one, he missed weight. Second time, he's like, doesn't matter if I make weight or not. Then he just defended it in a round 1 knockout 4 weeks ago. And now he's doing this fight. 4 title fights in a year. Figueiredo is going to prove to you why he deserves to be the champion. I love Figueiredo. Again, like you said, that aura about him is crazy. I like Brandon Moreno. I love how young he is. I like the way he talks. He just has a personality that fits. I just think he could be a champion, and you could see a very young champion that carries himself well and is still getting better right now. He's still getting better.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about becoming a champion, especially against a guy like Figueiredo, when you look at this guy, like, he's a scary dude. Like, you have to be able to look past that. You have to have that mental strength to just get past that fear and just be like, I'm at least as good as this guy. And I feel like Moreno has that. He's not worried about, I mean, obviously he knows Figueiredo's as good as he is, but he's not scared, you know. He's not going to go in there apprehensive. He's not going to go in there worried about that right hand. He's just going to go in there and fight. He has that Mexican fighting spirit. I feel like he's just going to go in there and throw with him. Like, he's not worried.
Look what that Mexican fighting spirit. That, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like a Modelo commercial. Let's get this man to become a champion. 27 years old, and I still feel like we haven't seen his full potential yet. This guy is crazy. Sure. He hasn't lost a fight since 2018. There's even a possibility
of him losing this one and then getting better and coming back just because he's so young, you know? 27 for MMA, that's crazy young.
He hasn't lost a fight since 2018. I mean,
yeah.
This guy is something different. He just knows how to fight. This is going to be a great main event. And I in terms of a challenge for Figueiredo, since he's became the all 4 fights this year, this is going to be his toughest fight on a short notice. They both fought on November 21st on UFC 255. They just fought on the last pay-per-view card 4 weeks ago. Now they're back doing
Both
it
of them.
again, and now they're both in the main event, and they're both going for this title. Well, one's retaining it, one's going for it, and I think Moreno gets it. I think that will be your champion, and it'll either be by knockout or by submission. This is not going to decision, and that's why it's one of my favorite cards on the fight. Oh my goodness, on the card, man, it's a great fight. Over under 2.5 rounds here, Eric.
I like the over, because I feel like, I mean, Figueiredo, of course, has that power. He's been finishing fights pretty quick, but I feel like Brandon Moreno gets past that the first kind of wave of shots from Figueiredo. I feel like he gets past that. He tries to keep his distance a little bit and kind of just work his boxing, his kicks. I feel like it goes over the 2.5.
What would you rather have, Figueiredo by knockout or Figueiredo by decision?
No, I would not take decision for sure. What are the odds on decision?
Plus 400 for Figueiredo by decision, or plus 600 for Moreno decision.
If I'm going decision, I'm going Moreno by decision personally. But
because of those kicks, huh?
Yeah, I just feel like he's though his fighting style is more made to go those 5 rounds. Like Figueiredo has shown he can go the distance. He's gone 3 rounds with Alexandre Pantoja, and he won that fight by a unanimous decision. He was looking a little gassed at the end, I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, he looks like one of those guys that he'll get gassed and he'll still knock you out. He'll still fight. Like I feel like he's mentally just strong enough to forget that he's tired and just keep on fighting.
Hey, who has the advantage on the ground? Who's better on the ground, Moreno or Figueiredo?
I think Figueiredo.
Yeah.
Like Moreno's not a slouch, but Figueiredo is he's explosive in those like grappling transitions. You saw how quick he locked up that guillotine against Alex Perez.
Yeah.
He's explosive. He has that jiu-jitsu background. I like Figueiredo as far as the ground, but I mean Moreno is definitely not a slouch on the ground, and if he can put some damage, I mean it's not a wrestling match or a jiu-jitsu match, if he could piece him up a little bit, then get him to the ground while he's tired and hurt, he's going to win that ground battle.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Eric and I have just ran down the entire betting line for UFC 256. I want to thank you all for listening to this show. Eric, before I let you go, where can the fans find you online?
They can find me on Twitter. It is Eric_Rs, ERIC_Rs.
You guys, go follow him on Twitter. You guys can follow me on all social media platforms of @VMCenter. This has been a hoop-ball.com presentation. Be sure to go on our website and get on that wager pass. It's only $9.99, one-time payment $9.99, and you will see all of our picks day of, how much we're betting, how many units that we are betting, and we'll help you guys win some money. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. Shout out to mybookie.ag for being a sponsor of this show. And until next time, my sports betting friends, bye-bye.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.